Angry protesters took over the interim government's headquarters earlier today. They smashed their way into the building using iron bars. The anti-government demonstrators are now occupying part of the building. They're protesting the power of the dreaded secret police. Armed soldiers stood aside and let the demonstrators in. Romania's prime minister says all is well and that arrests were made, but he gave no figure. He says the Romanian army is now in control. The Soviet government faces protest as well. Today, about 2,000 Russian nationalists demonstrated in Moscow, complaining that Gorbachev's reforms have made their lives worse. One speaker accused Gorbachev of forgetting the working class and trying to become a dictator. President Bush says tonight he hopes to bring Gorbachev to his vacation retreat at Kennebunkport, Maine during next June's Superpower Summit. During a cold walk on the beach, the president told reporters he thinks the Soviet leader would enjoy visiting there.
Well, there's more news ahead tonight on Channel 2. Coming up, if you've ever wondered about how your sex life measures up to everyone else's, you'll be interested in a new survey.
And lotto fever is growing in Illinois. And later in the newscast, more weather woes for the soggy South, which is already trying to clean up from recent floods.
You're watching Channel 2 News with Don Johnson, Dennis Riggs, meteorologist Joe Petrovich, and Bill Davis with sports.
President Bush says there will be much discussion in the coming days concerning the reunification of Germany. Mr. Bush says there will be much talk about whether the reunified state will be part of NATO, which the U.S. wants, or neutral, which the Soviets want. That, plus the question of military troop withdrawals, according to Secretary of State Baker, are part of the machinery already in place.
We have concluded an agreement that the way to address some of these problems, these external problems involved in the unification of Germany, is through a 2+4 mechanism. That is, the two Germanys and the four powers that have certain legal rights and responsibilities with respect to Germany.
Meanwhile, British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher told British Jews they have nothing to fear from a unified Germany.
There's no doubt that this coming together of the two parts of Germany is going to happen. But it's understandable that for some, bitter memories of the past should color their view of the present and the future.
Baker, by the way, says the Soviets likely will drop any opposition to the reunified Germany becoming a member of NATO.
Defense Secretary Dick Cheney is in the Philippines tonight, and he's stepping into the middle of a dispute. President Corazon Aquino refuses to meet with him because she says the U.S. hasn't paid all that it promised for the use of American military bases there. The countdown is underway tonight for the launch of the space shuttle Atlantis. The craft is on the pad at Cape Canaveral, Florida, and the crew will report in the next hour or so. The shuttle is expected to lift off Thursday carrying a secret payload. Sources say it's a satellite to spy on the Soviet Union. A new survey is out tonight that is sure to shed some light into some dark rooms.
Well, it's assuming a lot, but the University of Chicago has just released an extensive survey on Americans' sex habits. The study shows most adults have sex on an average of once a week. Those over 70 have sex less than once a month, and 1 person in 5 didn't have sex at all over the past year. Now, overall, married people have sex 67 times a year, divorced and never married people 55 times a year, and widowed people only 6. Among other findings, most adults say they've had about 7 sex partners, except for divorced people who say they've had about 13 sex partners in all, which is probably everything you ever wanted to know, and we're